Well, hello, it's time for another episode. So, Ruth, what are we up to this week?
Hi, we've got Mary Franks. Hello, Mary.
Hi there.
I just wanted to ask you, Mary, how did you come to faith? How did you?
Okay, well, I think I was very blessed. I was brought up in a Christian home. My mother ran the Sunday school in a local Anglican church, so we went every Sunday, dressed in our Sunday best, as you did in those days. And I carried on through Sunday school, youth group, Crusaders, all that sort of thing. And then in 1966, we had in our youth group at church, we had a visiting preacher. Can't quite remember his name, but I can remember it's October 1966. And he spoke about Jesus being the good shepherd. And although I knew, I'd been brought up with all of it, it really meant a lot to me. And I filled in the form. We had a little booklet that you sent, he gave to us, and I filled it in. So it was October 1966 was when I gave my heart to Jesus.
Wow. And where did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
Oh, sunny Weymouth. Down south, Dorset, yeah. Born and bred, Dorset, born and bred. I won't say what they quote you, but yes, Dorset, born and bred.
And so how did you come to meet Brian then?
Well, I was flat sharing in Oxford where I came up to do my nursing in 1968.
So you trained in Oxford?
I trained in Oxford, the old Radcliffe, that dates me, when it was the whole building, not just the front. Lovely old place to train in, it was lovely. And I was sharing with 3 other girls, one of them was my sister. And Brian went out with everybody, not my sister, but he went out with the other 2 and ended up with me. I always say he left the best to last, but I'll leave that to you to say that.
And so obviously you did your nursing, and what sort of things have you done? What did you do in your nursing career? Where did it take you? What direction?
Well, it was very different then than it is now. I came up to Oxford in 1968. I'd taken my A-levels. I was very naive. I'd never left home before. I got very homesick. And we lived in Arthur Sanctuary House then. It was where the nurses' home was. Yeah. And you had your board and lodging taking out. So by the end of the month, you had about 15 quid left to play with.
I remember that's what happened with me too.
Yeah. But it was, yes, I got used to it. And I love my job. I just felt it was where I was meant to be. And I did all the usual stuff, sort of a month here and 2 months there, theatre, and surgical, medical, all that sort of stuff, paediatrics, all that stuff. And then when I qualified, I staffed on a surgical ward, male surgery.
What, in Oxford?
In Oxford, yeah. I've never moved from Oxford. I've worked in all the hospitals, Churchill, John Radcliffe, Slade, you name it. So yes, because I met Brian and married, so I was stuck here, wasn't I, really? And then I ended up at Sobel House. I did 14 and a half years at Sobel before I retired.
And tell us about Sobel, because obviously that's a very, very quite hard sort of.
It is, but I've always wanted, when I knew they were going to build a hospice, it's been something I've always been interested in. And I've always enjoyed total patient care. So you're looking at everything about the patient, spiritual, emotional, physical, mental, all that sort of thing. And hospice nursing is very much that. You have a lower number of patients, but you concentrate on every part of them. So you look after how their well-being, their obviously their symptoms and their needs, but also you concentrate on supporting the family as well. So it's very much, or you concentrate on just a few, 2 or 3 patients a shift, sometimes only 1 if they're really ill. So it's very concentrated nursing. But Oxford's it's very good, Sobel House. We had a lot of Christian people there, including the Christian consultant, who it was really, really good, Robert Tricross. And yes, I just really, I say enjoyed, it sounds awful, doesn't it? I really found that type of nursing was what I felt I could relate to. And I could pray with patients if they wanted me to. Right. I would never push my religion on anybody. But sometimes if they would say, what would you do? And I'd say. So I think I met some super people there and still in touch with them. And it's a good place to work. It's tough. Sometimes you come home in tears. But that's true of any nursing experience, I think, really. But it's a good place to work, yeah.
I was going to ask you that because I remember at the time talking to you about just the emotional challenges of dealing with that kind of situation and then getting away from it.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to try and leave it behind, which is not very easy. I don't think I could have worked there if I wasn't a Christian. because I don't know how people do that, because you are facing death every day or very often. And then I could always come back and sound off to Brian. I mean, I didn't share confidentiality or anything, but you could talk about something completely different. And I think because you've got a family life, 3 boys, you know, you have to switch off and then get on with something else. But yes, it is hard, and you do get some support from there as well, you know.
And one thing I wanted to ask you, Mary, is about your prayer, because you are such a prayer warrior, if you're allowed to say that. But I just wondered if that was something that you'd always done, because you pray so beautifully. And have you always prayed like that, or is it something that, and you do like prayer bulletins and things, how that sort of came?
I think it started properly when I was at St Clement's Church, which was before Ben was born, so that's going back 40 years. And we had a mums and tots group, like you do, don't you? And Nathan and Toby was born when we were in St Clement's. And I read a book called What Happens When Women Pray.
Right.
And that had a real effect on me, because we were all women, obviously, with kids. And we set up a prayer line, and I was the one that set it up and answered the prayers and then passed the prayer request down the line. And I kept the answer side and filled it in. And I think that's where it's come from. So I've always sort of been on the end of a phone receiving prayer requests. Sometimes it's been more active than others. Obviously, when you change churches or moved to Kidlington, there was a while when I wasn't so involved. But I just think women are really good prayers, because we have, I was going to say, more time during the day. I better be careful what I say. But, you know, but it spoke to me then, and I think I've just carried on from there, really, doing what I can.
Yeah, you're brilliant. And I wanted to ask as well, what are your passions? What do you like to do now you're retired? And
passion's quite a strong word, isn't it, really?
well, what do you like to do? It doesn't have to be.
I mean, apart from football, Mary.
Yeah.
No. I've done 20 odd years of that when the boys were small. I like reading. I do read a lot. I like reading fiction, a good fiction, nothing too sloppy, but a good story, a good detective story or something. And I also like reading Philip Yancey, Max Lucado, Joyce Meyer, people that can give you a bit of a encouragement in your walk with Jesus. So I do spend a lot of my spare time. I also spend my spare time doing crossword puzzles to keep the old grey matter going. I'm not very good, but I usually have the ones with the answers in the back, so then I can always fill them in. So when people look at them, they think, wow, the whole book's been filled in.
What have you read recently?
I've just finished Max Lucado's book, Anxious for Nothing. Really good. I like his style of writing. He's very down to earth. I know it's American, so it's a bit Americanized, but and I read his Hope, Unshakable Hope, again, that's the one I've just finished. So I'm going to see what else I can follow up with that. And then I've been reading the Seven Sisters series as a fiction book, which is about seven sisters by Lucille Riley, I think it is. It's a set of 7, which is quite good. And they all go back over different years, and sort of quite a long saga things, which is quite good. So something like that you can get your teeth into.
And coming back to the football, your boys, has it been football all the way through? No other sort of like.
No ballet lessons, no. Yeah, I mean, they all played Kidlington football for Kidlington. I mean, I was doing Friday nights when they were growing up, because that was the easiest to do, because Brian was off on Saturday. So I would go and sleep at my mum's house when they were living in Cumberland Road in Oxford. They moved up to be close to us. So I'd go and sleep there for the morning, and she'd bring me up sort of a nice salad on a tray, and Brian would take all the boys to football. So yes, I mean, and then yes, it just goes on, doesn't it? And if you don't join in, you're sitting on your own.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to join in and get quite knowledgeable, really, for a bit. So when they were growing up, we'd all watch it together, or with friends that would come around and stuff. And so yes, I've obviously backed off a bit now, because they've all got their own TVs to watch now, apart from Brian.
So what do you think of England's chances in the European Championship then?
Well, as a pundit here, I think. Give me half an hour, Stuart, and I might be able to fill you in on the details. Well, I last saw them play. That was their second team, apparently, according to Ben. I wasn't terribly impressed, but
yeah, very good, Mary. Yeah, you're on the ball.
And Well, one thing we always ask is about how was lockdown for you? I know we're sort of moving a bit out, but how's things?
Well, lockdown was quite bad at the beginning because we got the COVID, and that was the 1st March, right at the beginning of lockdown, almost the day after lockdown. We both became ill. Brian became ill first. He coughs normally because of his chest, but he was coughing a lot and felt awful, and we just dismissed it. I mean, we had no idea what we were dealing with, did we? Absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
And then the next day I coughed. I never cough, well, very rarely. And I felt really lousy. And then we lost taste and smell. But of course, that wasn't necessarily acknowledged at that point. So that we didn't have a high temp, but we just felt really washed out. And I think it took us about 3 to 4 weeks to actually get our energy levels back.
Right.
And I still have, my taste buds are still not normal.
Really, they're not.
I mean, then sometimes they're fine, and other times I can think this doesn't taste how it should be, and I think that's probably just carrying on. You know, also it's old age, they change as well. But so to begin with, it was we were locked in, obviously.
Sorry, what would you know about old age, Mary?
Quite a bit, Stuart. So I think at the beginning we were all locked in for the first month or so.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. We just got on with it. I think as it's gone on, I've just missed the family. I miss my grandchildren. I used to see them every day, every week, once a week. I used to look after the younger two. I'd see my family most weekends, or would be able to if I wanted to. We go and watch the grandchildren play football, you know, and all those things. Lots of family things, and I miss that. And I miss going out with my friends. That was my way of relaxing. I've still got lots of lovely friends that I worked with, which we meet for coffee and stuff, and we go and have a good chat and go shopping and stuff. And I miss that closeness of being with people. And I'm not very good at hobbies. I'm not one that will sit and knit like you do. So I did find sometimes it was quite hard, you know. So I think that's where the reading came in. That helped. And I quite like gardening, so that was okay in the summer when it was nice and warm. So, but it hasn't been that bad. We haven't been ill since, you know. I mean, we've been fine. In fact, all the family have been fine. None of them have lost their jobs, you know, which is great. We've got 3 boys that are, you know, adults that are in paid employment. Well, self-employment for Ben, but I mean, they're all in work, and they never stopped at all. Well, Ben stopped for a couple of weeks, but he got good support from the government. So we were very fortunate, I have to say. And because we're pensioners, we know what we've got coming in each month, and you know it's going to keep, at least you hope it's going to keep coming in. So you don't have that financial worry. I really felt for people who had that. But for us, it was okay. Okay, different. I'd like to get out and about now, but too long.
It's one of those things where you always think, oh, I wish I had lots of time to do things. But then when you've got the time, you're like, oh.
You lack the motivation. All I do anyway. It's getting back into the swing of things now, which is hard. Yeah.
When did you come to KBC, and how did that come about?
Well, we moved to Kidlington. It must have been 1979, because my mother had died, and we bought a house and built on so that my father could live with us, because he was older than my mother. So we moved to Kidlington and built on the house we're in now. We've been here for 41 years. And we went to one of the local Anglican churches here. And we went to one of the, well, it wasn't really belonging to their church, but a group of people, from friends of ours we met once a week in a house group. And we just decided, or we prayed about it, obviously, that we wanted to be baptized by immersion. We'd all been, you know, christened. And we really felt this was something that God wanted us to do. So we went to the minister at the Anglican church, but we didn't get a very nice reception. I'm sure he had his he had his reasons, but because we'd all been christened before, we were sort of threatened. You know, this wasn't what you do. You know, you're baptized once and that's it. So then my friend and I sort of did a recce at Kidlington Baptist Church, and had a word with Jack Ramsbottom and talked it through with him. And then there were about 4, 5, 6 of us that moved at the time from one to the other. And we got baptized on Easter Sunday 1983. Right. 10 of us.
But then you did leave KBC, but then you saw the error of your ways and came back.
We left because we were going through a really hard time in the family. I don't want to go into details. Sure. But we felt it was right to go somewhere where we weren't known and where we could just be ourselves rather than, you know. And again, God led us to St Andrews, and we had a really positive time there for a couple of years. And then we felt it was time to come back. We missed our friends, and we thought if anything happened to one of us, all our friends, our fellowship was based in KBC, so we came back. Thankfully, they welcomed us back. Yes, I mean, people were very good at KBC. There were very close friends that were praying for us, so we didn't feel abandoned, but we felt it was the right move for a couple of years, and then we came back.
You've done at least 2 terms in leadership, which is really beyond the call of duty, and I think you've been brilliant at it. So how have you found that?
I suppose I like to know what's going on. That sounds awful, doesn't it? I felt I could offer something. I was on the diaconate first, and then I became an elder for a bit. It was very different then, I have to say. And then I had a long gap when I did nothing to do with that at all. And then I just felt again a nudge from God to say, how about it? Do you think you could do this again? Do you think it's right? I prayed very hard about it and asked people to pray for me, people that weren't attached to the church. And it just seemed to be the right time to do it again before I get too old and decrepit.
Never.
Yeah. Mary, I know you didn't mean it at all this way, but it just reminded me of that wonderful line in the Adrian Plass book, where he said, I really need to know what Mrs. Jones's personal problem is so that I can pray about it.
Absolutely, Stuart, you're spot on. I should probably get struck off now, won't I?
Oh dear. Well, probably we'll be struck off as well then.
Yeah. One thing we always ask people is, if you could choose 2 people to share your lockdown, who would you?
This was really difficult.
I know you were.
First one was easy. I would choose Brother Andrew of Open Doors, because Bar and I have supported them as for all the time we've been married. I've read the books, we've done all that, and I think it's a wonderful organisation, and I think he'd be a fascinating person to talk to for all that he's been, and when he started up, how dangerous it was. And so I would enjoy talking things through with him and being a missionary in very difficult circumstances. And then I ummed and ahed about the second one, and I think I would probably choose Dame Cecily Saunders. She is the lady that set up the hospice movement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was such a pioneer because she trained as a nurse and as a social worker, and then she really had this. Well, she was Christian as well. She became a Christian when she was training as a social worker. She wanted to get involved in end-of-life care, or how she called it, total pain or palliative care. And in those days, somebody said to her, they never listen to you because you're a woman. So she trained to be a doctor. So her determination to follow things through. I mean, obviously things have changed a lot since then. But working in Sobel, I mean, I've read so much of her work, and I've even met her or been in the same room as her at some point when we've had conferences and stuff. And I think she's somebody that you look up to and think, well, she pioneered something and she stuck to it. And then the first hospice at St Christopher's was opened in 1967, and I've been there as well.
So, is that in Oxford or
London? In London. Yeah, it's a big one there in London. Yes. And I loved my job. I did. I liked nursing, so that. I think it would be quite interesting to talk about her, how she started and how it all worked out, really. So I think I'd pick those 2.
That's what an amazing lady.
Yeah, what an amazing lady.
Yeah. And did you ever think about a Bible verse, your favourite Bible verse?
I did. It's difficult again, because I've got many favourite Bible verses.
I knew you would.
But I'm going to pick the one that I've got pinned up on my office wall, but I've just taken down so I can remember it. It's in Exodus chapter 14. And it says, do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of the Lord will bring you today. And if you miss the next sentence out, it says, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still.
Wow.
And I'm the sort of person, I know Ruth knows this, that I want to solve things. There's a problem. I want to do what I can to get things right. And it's very hard when we had all this problem some time ago. I couldn't make it better. I couldn't change anything.
No.
I just had to be there, pray, be prayed for, but I personally couldn't do anything. And I just saw this, just be still. And that's something I find really difficult. But I've always held on to that I can't do anything, but God can do everything. and I just have to be still. So that's one of my favourite verses.
Oh,
A
thank
lovely
you.
way of expressing it.
That's a lovely verse. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Are we
I
ready?
wonder, I think it may be time for somebody to put in an appearance.
Mary, you know the question, and you've met the dog, but I'm not pressuring you.
Hello, Cromwell. Well, I'm really sorry because I like dogs. Both my older boys have got dogs now, but I've never had a dog myself. So I have to say, I do prefer cats, although I'm beginning to get used to dogs because I've had to, because I now dog sit as opposed to babysit. But my younger son's got a cat, and I think that, yeah, the cat's what I would choose personally, but nothing against dogs at all. But
No,
that's
he
my
still
personal
loves you. He still loves you. Thank you.
Well, Mary, thanks for your time. And just before you came on, I was just saying to Ruth that I have absolutely no doubt that if I wanted somebody in the church to pray with me, that there are two people I would choose, and you would be one of them.
Thank you.
So thank you for the ministry that you've brought and how you've encouraged prayer and just all that you've done over the years.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for your encouragement.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. And if you're very good, we might just be back with another one quite soon.